Overall, Colorado, we're terrible at recycling. Per person, we're throwing away almost 2,000 pounds of trash every year. We recycle and compost about 15% of our waste. Nationwide, the rate is 32%. So Colorado is less than half the national average. We are absolutely falling behind. We set a state goal of trying to reach 28% by 2021. We've missed that. And so not only are we behind the national average, but we've just sort of flatlined in some of our recycling. We have one primary challenge, and that is recycling is not convenient and accessible across the state. Recycling has to be as convenient as trash. If you've got a trash can at the curb, you need to have a recycling bin right next to it. If you're in an apartment complex, there needs to be really easy recycling on site. When we look across the state, we see there are 30 cities out of over 270 in which every resident who has trash service has a recycling bin right next to that. That's the system we're trying to achieve. But 6 out of our 10 largest cities don't work that way. On top of that, we have really low landfill prices across the Front Range in particular. Outside the Denver area, you might only pay $20, $25 a ton for landfilling. The national average is almost $60 a ton. So our landfills are really cheap, and that makes it really hard for recycling and composting to compete economically. The third major challenge is where we are in the country. We are a long way from a lot of the big manufacturing hubs, a lot of the big port cities on either of the coasts. So Colorado has to ship most of our recyclables out of the state to be remanufactured into new materials.
The one exception to that is glass. We are blessed in the Northern Front Range to have some companies, Momentum Recycling, that will take the glass that goes to all the recycling centers, and they will process it by size and color, and then sell it back to be made into new bottles. So for example, you can drink a beer here in Boulder, put it into your recycling bin, and within 6 weeks, it will have gone through that process and be back on the shelves as a new bottle. And that's the sort of process, the sort of circularity we want to create for all the other recyclable materials that we can.
So we have a lot of great role models. And in the mountain communities, we see Aspen, Pitkin County, Durango have really strong recycling programs and are really innovating when it comes to composting as well. And all of these programs have a couple key common denominators. First, they make recycling convenient. Again, if you have a trash can, you've got the recycling bin right there next to it. These communities also charge for trash based on volume. So the more trash you use, the more you pay, which gives you a financial incentive to recycle. And then these communities have also invested in composting programs. So the good news is we have a lot of great working examples that we can build from statewide. If we're going to scale up recycling across Colorado as a climate solution and an economic opportunity, we need to think about systemic change. We need to think about a coordinated, consistent, cost-effective statewide solution that doesn't depend on local governments to find the money to support recycling. We are looking at a policy called producer responsibility, which is in place in over 40 countries around the world, in which the companies that make packaging and products help pay into the system to support recycling. So we have a sustainable source of money to make recycling convenient, whether you live on the Front Range or the Western Slope and everywhere in between. We want to make sure that Colorado has an equitable, convenient recycling system